Hello everybody, welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today we're going to talk about Purphoros, or as my wife likes to call him, Phosphorus, the goddess of the forge. Now, like pretty much most of the rest of the Theros God cycle, we're not playing this for him to become a dude and get into the red zone. We are playing this, don't really ever care if he becomes a creature. I mean, actually, it'd be preferable if he didn't, simply because he's not as easy to remove that way. But anyway, we're playing Purphoros because whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, which is a beautiful thing. So obviously you want to put as many creatures into play as possible. Now, I chose goblins because goblin tokens, you can make goblin tokens pretty easy. First and foremost, Krinko. Y'all remember the Krinko deck from way back. Even by himself, he's going to tap to put 1 and then 2 and then whatever. But we have other ways here. The Siege Gang Commander comes to mind, because that's 4 goblins right there. That's 4 creatures entering. That's for 5 mana. You're getting 4 creatures and 8 damage to all opponents. Wow. Mog War Marshal not only replaces himself, but that's a hell of a deal for 2 mana. Krinko's Command, of course. Dragon Fodder. Beetleback Goliath. So we've got a little bit of a goblin theme going here, right? Now, with the goblin theme, we got to keep going with it. The War Chief, the Chieftain, and the King. The Matron is going to go find a very specific goblin for us, and so will the Recruiter, who get them all. Now, because once we get them into play, we don't really care what happens to them, to be honest with you. I would love to own a copy of Mog Infestation so that I could essentially get a second comes into play effect. But anyway, speaking of second comes into play effects, Panharmonicon works pretty decent with the old Purphoros. As far as drawing some cards, Skull Clamp on them is nice. Now, here's a card you probably wouldn't think, but, protection from red exists. A Chromis Memorial is a very popular card. So, this pretty much throws all protection out the window. Kind of the card that just about doesn't fit is Hammer of Purphoros, but it does fit because it seems like I've got to have the God's Weapon in the God deck. So, that's just me. Dragon Master Outcast is a 1-drop, but it will, eventually it'll make some tokens, and we are kind of weak to the flying side. Carrie Zev brings her monkey to the party, and so she comes in and deals 2, and every time the monkey comes in, it deals 2, so I thought that was pretty decent. I mean, she's in there. Now, the Click Slither, not a sliver, Brian. Anyway, this is really good. Just to eat your goblins, or if you can get this guy, if you can get him in there. Now, Gorilla Shaman is a card that I believe does not get enough love. I've loved this card since the day I opened it out of an Alliances pack. I mean, we read it, and the very first thing that we said was, this is a Mox Monkey. Oh my god, this is 1 mana, destroy Moxes. Now, in our format, that's not a thing because, 5 of them are banned. But anyway, it's repeatable artifact destruction. You can eat up people's spellbooks pretty easy. Everflowing Chalices, Library Links, all kinds of random stuff. You get enough mana and you can eat anything. Ib this is pretty much in there for the late game when you just need to deal a couple more damage to your opponents. You can sack 2 mountains and make some dudes. It does have the nasty drawback of becomes blocked, but here again, this is a deck where we don't have to attack with our Goblin Tokens. Now, let's see here. Let's get some of the utility out of the way before I get it into the meat and potatoes. Ramp in the form of Fire Diamond, Worn Power Stone. I like the Iron Mirror because it does trigger Purphoros, you know. It's ramp that, you know, triggers him. Doing the Mana Flare. A lot of people dig on the Mana Flare because it doesn't help all players, but for this deck, it is essential. Now, removal, Chain Reaction, Blasphemous Act, Shattering Pulse, because why play Shatter? I realize Vandal Blast is better anyway, but Shattering Pulse, outstanding. Lightning Bolt, and you know what? Sudden Impact is called player removal, because everybody loves their no max hand size, and I've got 38 cards in my hand, and, you know, Sudden Impact punishes them for that. And it happens. Every game you've got that one player who's like, just got this sick grip. And you know what? They're typically blue, and if they let this shit happen, then it's on them. Anyway, I think we're to the... All right. So this was my line of thinking after the Goblin Token thing. I was like, all right. I looked at the Greening Ignis, and I was like, okay, so I can return him to my hand and just keep casting him and getting that Purphoros trigger. But here's the thing. The whole cycle costs you 4 mana, and it costs, you know, so you've got to reduce it with our favorite cards. Oh, scoot over there. Helm of Awakening and or Ruby Medallion. Now, so the way that's going to work is if you just got 1 in play, he'll cost 2 mana. So you'll spend, he's already in play, you spend the 1 red, bounce him, you get 3, use 2 of it to replay him. Now, you can't really go infinite with it because the mana you have left over is colorless, not red, and you need a red. But essentially, you can do it a bunch of times and get a bunch of Purphoros triggers. If you got both of them, you can start, just mounting up colorless mana for something, whatever. But that's kind of where my mind went to first, was if I could get a whole bunch, you know, a repeatable creature. And then my mind went to, naturally, Storm. Now, Storm is not especially not in the very limited amount of card draw that we have in mono red, but Storm is, and the reason why I thought Storm was because of Empty the Warrens. I have a crappy little legacy deck that I play that's, you know, people just don't see coming. But I was looking for cards that created Goblin Tokens, and this one popped up in my mind, and I went, oh yeah, what if, blah, blah, you know. So, Empty the Warrens, that also led me to, like, the other win con of that deck was Grape Shot. So I'm like, well, I've got 2 Storm cards now. You know what? Let's not half-ass it. Let's just go all the way. Scattershot, Ignite Memories, Volcanic Awakening, and then the Storm entity. So that's going to, you know, so we've got some Storm cards. Now, we need to ramp up the chain to get some Storm off. Well, I'm going to play with a Lotus Petal, Termit's Crypt, Spellbook. Everflowing Chalice is good on both sides, whether you're just pitching it down for Storm and don't really care if it taps for mana, or you draw it late game, whatever. Of course, we have our also much rituals. You're probably going to start the chain off with your Rite of Flame, and then you're going to play your or your Pyretic Ritual or your Desperate Ritual into your Seething Song. And then you're going to gut shot somebody. Maybe with your 5 mana that you get from your Seething Song, you're just going to Mana Geyser, because, oh my gosh, multiplayer. If you've already got your whole Goblin Token thing going, Brightstone Rituals, you're just mounting up even more mana. Or, hey, Battle Hymn's a good second copy. Maybe even a little better. You know why it's a little better? Because y'all forgot a couple turns ago I played Young Pyromancer, and I have Elementals and Goblins. So, you need more mana? Got too many Goblins? They've already come into play. You've already gotten the Purphoros trigger. Let's sack them to get more mana. More mana, more mana. Because it's all about more mana. And if you just have it, you just 1 mana, both of doom somebody out of the sky. You got 2 players? 3 players? Okay. We'll copy that a couple of times. Impact Trimmers. Why do 2 when you can do 3? Goblin Slide is getting fuzzy. The Goblin Slide there, non-creature spell, paying the extra 1. Yeah, that's kind of a pain, but you're paying 1 for 2 damage to all players. That seems like a pretty good rate. Oh, and you get this 1/1 out of the deal. Faithless Looting, every Storm deck's card draw. Thought about the other one, like the flashback option. Reforge the Soul, going to fill up that hand. This is kind of one of those decks you really don't want to Miracle this Joker, unless it's, you're Hellbent and you just top deck it. And then last but not least, certainly, is our Granite Grip, because why the hell not? If Purphoros does magically turn into a creature, you might as well get in there with him. I mean, he is indestructible. Well, that's what I've got. It is Goblins / Quasi-Storm. It's a fun deck. It ain't tier or nothing, but I do appreciate you watching. Special lands. I am playing with like the cycling lands because they use land slots and they are card draw essentially. Dwarven Ruins you can sack once you get your storm thing going. Temple of the False God, and obviously the Valakut, and crazy amount of mountains. Anyway, that's what I've got for Purphoros. I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all let me know what you think. But right now, we're going to shuffle and cut.